Okay, welcome back to day 2 of the Xylem Lab. Again, yesterday we went ahead and we set up our lab investigation. We used a piece of celery stalk in a control cup with just plain water. We went ahead and we set up another cup with red food coloring inside of it and water with a celery stalk. And then we added salt to another cup of water and another celery stalk. Okay. We're going to take a look and make some observations today. So it's been 24 hours since we prepared our investigation, and I'm going to take a look at the control cup. Again, nothing has happened. The leaves look the same. The celery stalk looks exactly the way that it did when I placed it into the water yesterday, into our control cup. I can feel the celery. It's still very firm. It's not bending too much. If I even squeeze on it, you can hear that snap. Again, the celery stalk looks identical to the way that it was yesterday. So there's been no changes. That's my observation for our control cup. And then moving along into the food coloring cup, taking a look at the celery stalk, I can see that there's some red lines that are going up the actual stalk of the celery, and then when I look at the leaves, we can see that they turned red. So somehow the food coloring in the cup has traveled up the celery, and now the red food coloring water is up inside the leaves. Okay, so making your observations right now on the food coloring cup with the celery stalk. Next is our last cup with salt water, and although the celery itself appears to look exactly the same, I wanted to show you. I had the celery stalk sitting in the water, and we can see that the celery stalk has wilted, and it's definitely very squishy, and I can bend it, very similar to the way that we could bend that potato in the Not Your Average French Fry Lab. Okay, so I can go over here and I can bend it and it's not snapping. Okay, it's just very, very flexible. It has wilted. Looks like a very sad piece of celery. Okay, so please make your observations for our saltwater cup and celery. So now it is time for us to go ahead and complete our Xylem Lab data table. We are going to now draw in our observations, what we have seen has happened in 24 hours into the beaker where it says after 24 hours. So again, I'm going to take a look at that control celery cup, and as you can see, it looks exactly the same as when we prepped it yesterday, a day ago. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in my picture, and it's going to look exactly the same. Okay, nothing has changed. I like that I'm using color because in this lab investigation, we truly need to show our observations, and of course that's going to be with using color. So these colored pencils are very helpful. Now on this worksheet at the bottom it says, in words you're going to write down your own observations. Again, what you see in the control cup is what you need to write down. So I am going to actually write down that there was no change because that's my observation. It's exactly the way that it looked when we prepped it yesterday. Now taking a look at our next setup, we have our celery stalk and the red food coloring. Yesterday, if we take a look at our lab page, we saw that it was just red food coloring with a regular piece of celery. We let it sit for 24 hours, so now we're ready to draw in our observations at this time for a day later, 24 hours later. And taking a look at the celery, it's amazing. We've got the piece of celery sitting in the red food coloring, and you can see some lines on that stalk of celery, okay? There are these red lines, and then we move on up the celery stalk, and the leaves have turned red. So I need to add that into my data table. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add my celery. I'm going to put the stalk here. I'm going to make my leaves, but I've got to definitely go in and add some red here. I'm going to put a couple of lines in there like that because the food coloring has moved up the celery and has now moved into the leaves. Okay, now moving on, we have our beaker C, which is our cup with celery and salt water, and I'm going to move over to that cup. We're going to take a look at it. You can see down at the bottom of that cup, it is very wilted, it is very flaccid, and so it has definitely changed since yesterday when we set up our lab. So I'm going to go over here, record my observations. And although the water is still clear, because it's just a saltwater solution, okay, the celery itself, I'm just going to make it look very wilted because it is. Okay, again, I was able to even bend it, and it didn't even snap. Okay, it's a sad looking piece of celery. All right. Okay, so now you have completed your data tables for our Xylem Lab. You have drawn in your observations. And now it's time for us to complete our worksheet when we work on our conclusion questions. This is the conclusion of our Xylem Lab, but before you complete your Xylem Lab worksheet, I wanted to show you all that yesterday I prepared a couple extra cups with food coloring and I placed some white daisies inside of them. I wanted to go ahead and show you guys our results. As you can see, we have some cups with blue water and daisies, and if you look at the daisies, you see that the blue food coloring has now moved into the petals of the flower, and then our green food coloring cup has done the same. Again, the petals of the flower have turned green. So that was a little fun extra activity that we added to this lab. I hope you guys liked it. You guys have a great day.